G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 108. Of course, a lot to talk about today. We're going to be previewing a little bit of gather round, a little bit outside of the football space and how excited we are for it. Harley Reid's massive contract offer that seems to be headed from West Coast, and a bunch more news, injury updates, and everything else in between. So let's not waste any more of your time. Let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options, and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do just this!
But this guy has Flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reid sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, my brother is here for one more week, I think, maybe, and then eventually he may have to go back to work.
Sadly.
Yeah, so may not be on the podcast as much. Hopefully he will be, but we'll get into Port Adelaide a little bit later because I've got a little bit of a talking point about it, but not a very good week from Port. A lot of pundits coming out, not impressed by their performance, but on other
saying
news,
what every other Port Adelaide fan has been saying since this was announced.
Yeah, but anyway, Riley Bice, what a man.
Oh,
I think we need to have a Riley Bice segment here.
He's my goat, yeah.
Yeah, he's
He
mine.
definitely-
Yeah, he's
no.
mine. He's ours.
No,
He's everyone's.
He's got him in
everyone's.
fantasy, which was the thing that screwed him, but
Oh, I can't hear it
benefited me
anymore.
very much.
I can't hear it anymore. Fuck me. Yeah, Riley Bice, what a performance. I mean, Werribee product.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, we've seen a couple of players out of Werribee at the moment. You got Jack Henderson running around for Melbourne. There's a couple of Sean Manor, of course. He came from there, playing at Geelong, having good performances. Aiden Johnson also at the Demons. He was a Werribee product. Sam Closey was a Werribee product. He was originally a part of the Gold Coast Academy, but he went to the Gold Coast now, and he's doing pretty well up there. There's probably a bunch of other ones that I'm just forgetting about at the moment, but yeah, I mean, it's just I think it just shows that the rookie list needs to be more utilised for players outside of, you know, AFL listed players who have played 300 plus games and just want to have an extra year and get an extra paycheck.
Exactly.
You know, but anyway, let's move into a couple of news topics from the week that was. So first of all, Luke Parker against his former side this week, or last week, sorry, had a couple of interest. He's probably their best player on the ground, really. They had a very poor performance in North Melbourne. I didn't know this, but apparently it's been reported that Luke Parker has been playing with a broken rib since pre-season.
It kind of shows you how much dedication he has to the club, and there's other players doing nothing.
Who are getting paid probably a lot more as well. The guy's played nearly 300 games of AFL football, and the guy's playing with a broken rib, and he showed more spirit for North Melbourne than anyone else at the club last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on North Melbourne a little bit, but it was a very disappointing performance against the Swans.
Yeah, it's the same old from North Melbourne, which is what we pretty much weren't expecting. We were expecting them to do something this season, and they still may, but their first test, they failed miserably.
Yeah, I mean, they went into that game not as favourites, but there was definitely a thought that this would be their moment to, like, shine, show us something that we haven't seen in the last, 5, nearly 10 years. They were going in as like an underdog that we could see maybe them winning. Like, it's not even the point of, like, you know, when they've won a game in the past and they won it out of nowhere. Yeah. Like, this would have been amazing. This is like they genuinely had a chance. Yeah. Sydney had a lot of players out, and Sydney dominated them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy who was third gamer, Riley Bice, was best player on the ground. I mean, you got to do better than that. But yeah. Anyway, Luke Parker still flying the flag. Did you see the Chad Warner bit when you saw it during the game?
Tried to high-five, yeah.
Yeah, and you see Peter Adams. I love Peter Adams. I think he's my second favourite player in the Swans at the moment. Riley Bice, Peter Adams, the rest of them. Loved his response to Dean Cox over the week as well with his shot on goal. He was just centering it. Love that. Yeah. He's actually really surprised me this year, Peter Adams. Now, hopefully I don't put the mozzer on him, but he's actually performed quite well.
Yeah.
For the majority of it, anyway.
He's put some pressure for maybe the first time when being at Sydney on the ruck position.
Yeah, he had it a couple of years ago when Tom Hickey was there. He had it for a little bit when Tom Hickey was out, and he was brought in as a ruckman, but never took the role. Was questioned by many people. It warranted, I think, because he hasn't performed very well for the Swans. But this time, I think we've kind of realised, and I think he's probably realised as well, that he's not a sole ruckman. He is a second ruck.
Even though that's what he wanted to be a sole ruck.
That's one of the reasons why he left Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
So we brought him in as like a sole ruck, but the thing is, he's a forward. He has a good forward craft, usually a good kick at goal, but he can pinch hit in the ruck, and he's a very good second ruckman. But he's just not. I don't think he has the capacity to run a full game out. With Brodie Grundy underperforming right now, Peter Ludham's actually done pretty well, in my opinion, anyway. So a couple of other topics I wanted to talk about. Harley Reid's contract. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw it today. Yeah.
So apparently there's a 3-year off. So apparently the Eagles are going all out to try and get Harley Reid. So there's been a lot of trade rumours regarding him and Essendon, him and Hawthorn, and there hasn't really been much talk about the West Coast Eagles about what they're going to be doing. But there's been some news circulating today about Harley Reid getting a huge offer from the West Coast Eagles. So there is a potential of a 3-year offer being handed to him. He's currently contracted to 2026. This would take him to 2029. That would take him to his end of his 6th season, which I believe would get him to free agency. I believe you're 25, you enter free agency. So it'd be around that mark. There's also a 5-year contract extension handed to him or being offered at the moment, which would take him to the end of 2031. Which would that would take into free agency, a 5-year deal. Okay. And then these deals at this stage are being expected to be worth around $1.6 to $1.8 million a season. So, and the Eagles are open to longer. There's obviously like different contract triggers that they can add to these sort of things to get him longer. And that would probably see Harley Reid, be up around $2 million a year. So he's getting offered a lot of money from the West Coast Eagles. They are a pretty rich club. I think they're one of the richest clubs in the league. Yeah. Definitely the richest interstate club, I believe. So it's a lot of money for a guy who, the last few weeks has performed okay, or the last week has performed okay, but there's a lot of uncertainty around him at the moment. I don't know. I understand why they want to throw a lot of money at him. He is a generational talent, but there is also a lot of issues as well that they need to sort out.
Yeah, but that could also come down to maturity and stuff. So I think West Coast, they are so much in the hole at the moment. They don't seem like they can get out without Harley Reid in that team, at least to keep them somewhat.
Well, they were very disappointing last week as well against the Giants. Now it is the Giants, but they were dreadful. I know some people are saying it's good to see Harley Reid get the footy and, he had 25 touches, which is the most.
I don't think it was beneficial.
I mean, he does need to get more of the ball. I do get that. I don't think... I guess Harry Sheasel has that role at North Melbourne, and I think that needs to be changed. I do agree on Kane Corns about the fact that he needs to be playing more midfield centre forward rather than halfback getting 30 touches.
Him anymore. It's like he needs to grow up in a way and get the ball.
You're talking about Harley Sheasel. Okay.
Sheasel. Yeah. I think Harley Reid, I just don't think he's a player to play with halfback. I don't think he can use the ball as well as a Sheasel, as a McKercher can.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, I think they're just trying to get the ball in his hands because he struggled to touch it in the first few weeks of the season. So I'll be interested to see in the next couple of weeks against Carlton this week. Very interesting game, that one as well, because if they win that, that'd be pretty shocking. It's going to be a game against two teams that have not won a game so far. But if they win that game, that would shock a lot of the league, I think, because of how poor they've been the first few weeks of the season.
West Coast.
West Coast. So,
well, I'll say that it will be interesting if they lose that at Carlton.
Yeah, I mean, West Coast, if they win that game, they got. I think Harley Reid. I'll be interested to see where Harley Reid plays, considering this game is it would be like on paper, both teams are winless. Will they play him as like a midfielder, as that ball player to go up forward, or will they try to keep him trying to get more touches on the ball? I don't know, to grow his confidence. I'll be interested to see how McWalter tries to manage him. But that seems like it's a huge amount of money, that contract. I mean, he's probably worth it at his best, what we've seen so far, and the potential that it could be. I mean, at this day and age, people have, touted him as like Dusty Martin and all that sort of stuff. You probably would pay Dustin Martin that amount of money in his prime. So, like, in this day and age. So, maybe he is, but the thing is, the amount of scrutiny the guy gets all the time as well. And he doesn't... Well, that's the thing, though. But, he's going to get that if he gets that money. He's going to get that no matter what.
Yeah, he's
Will
gonna
it be
get that
worse
wherever,
if it's
wherever
in?
he goes? Though.
Yeah.
He'll get that wherever he goes. If he goes back to Melbourne,
I mean, if he comes to Sydney, maybe not. I mean, look, Harley, if you're listening, take him to Sydney. We'll take you.
Yeah.
the media scrutiny isn't as bad over it.
Somehow you're going to get Chad Warner to stay. You're going to get Jamara, and you're going to get Harley Reid.
Look,
yeah,
we'll
okay.
trade away Chad Warner for Harley Reid. All right.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, you just speak to some auditors at
Geelong. I mean, Geelong are going to get him.
The people who manage the books there.
Yeah, I mean, Geelong will. I mean, they'll send him a deal for like $800K, but then the Cotton On deal is going to be $1 million a year. I think that's the way to go. All right, let's move to a bit of injury news because there's been a lot going around the AFL this week. A lot of bad news.
Didn't you say that there wasn't a lot of news?
Well, I mean, I've jinxed it.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot.
You were telling me on what was it, Sunday? Nothing. No, there's not a lot of injuries this week.
Well, there wasn't. I mean, but I don't know what happened over the week. But all of a sudden, everyone's just fallen over and collapsed. Maybe they just don't want to come to Adelaide.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, maybe they just took Jack Higgins' advice and said, "Oh, well, there's nothing to do here."
Yeah, fucking asshole. Anyway, so first news topic I want to talk about here is Isaac Rankin. He is in some doubt for the Thursday night contest between Geelong and them to opening round. So Matthew Nicks had a bit of a press conference today. I want to try and play a little bit of it. Apparently, we're not going to play a little bit of it. So he is in doubt for the game. He had a calf issue that at the end of that game, he didn't play the last quarter through the midfield. He played up forward. And obviously had that big moment, which we'll get to later, about that part of the game. But do you risk it? It's very early on in the season. I mean, I know it is a very big game. It is up against Geelong. It's a starter gather round. You want to have your best team in. But it is only round 5. And we've seen how important he has been over the first month or so of the season. And, you know, if he goes out there and potentially does something worse to his calf, he could miss. We saw last year when he was out of the team for the Crows as well that they struggled.
Oh, they just plummeted.
Yeah, so
I think that you're nailing on the head. The fact is that injury, or the injuries that he's had at the Crows, have been. You don't want to make it worse and make it one of those injuries that he misses the 8-10 weeks. Because he's a very good player, and in the first month of football, he's been up there with one of the best players.
Yeah, so I think they've got to take a cautious approach.
Yeah, I think they do. I think
it is a 5-day break.
It's a 5-day break. Yes, it's against Geelong, but I think you got to think about the long run. Are you making finals? The way they're playing, they should. And if they can bank a few other wins around this period with him out for 1, maybe 2 weeks with a calf injury, they'll be set up for the rest of the season. Yeah,
I mean, I think you take the cautious approach with a player like Isaac Rankin. I mean, it would be good to see him in gather round for the Crows and that sort of stuff. You want him to be playing in every game, but you know. Next week, they've got the Giants as well. That is at Adelaide Oval. So, I mean, you want him there for that game too.
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably the way. I think they probably will. They will be coming off a 9-day break.
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably the safe bet. I think they probably will rest Isaac Rankin. On Melbourne, Jake Lever been ruled out for 8 weeks. He's going to miss, 2 months of footy? Yeah. Melbourne's already had struggles throughout this year so far. A defensive player gone. I mean, that's not really been their issue, their defence. So, I mean, maybe add that to the pile. They got Essendon this week, massive contest. I mean, they could be 0-5. They could be 0-5. We don't say what.
And what you see, Petrarca and Oliver just walk out the door.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can wear a Geelong and a Collingwood jumper in round 6. I don't know if they can leave that early, but you could see Petrarca's look on his face how down he was when they lost that game against the Cats. Collingwood have 2 players ruled out for gather round. Jordan De Goey out with an ankle/Achilles inflammation. Club is hopeful he'll be ready for in 1 week. And Lockie Schultz has had a really good start to the season. He has done a hamstring at training on Sunday. He's going to be out to 2 to 3 weeks. So Lockie Schultz has been a good player so far this year for the Pies.
He seemed to be turning a leaf and just like he was...
Hopefully it's just a small strain, couple of weeks out. Hopefully he's back
so
pretty
you
soon.
Smile a little when you saw
well, I mean, Sydney have got a couple of issues at the moment on injury front, so maybe it evens it out a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. The footy gods.
I'm so happy the player's gotten injured. Yeah, I went over there and actually, I did smacked him in the back of the leg with a fucking crowbar.
Don't come to Adelaide.
Don't come to Adelaide, yeah. Will Day is probably the big one though. Out for up to 4 months. He has done a stress fracture in his foot.
What was he
This is
doing
crazy.
on his day? On his week off? Like, seriously?
Yeah, I know. He should have been fucking... I mean, Will Day, you fucking keep him inside a little pod and you protect him at all costs.
Yeah,
He's out for 4 months now. This is a massive loss for them.
Yeah, well, Sam Mitchell should have been keeping an eye on his own players at the moment.
Yeah, I know. He's too busy watching other players.
Yeah.
And Will Day all of a sudden's fucking off somewhere and fucked his foot up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if Oscar Allen talking to him and having a coffee should have been sitting with Will Day, counselling him, talking to him and saying, how you doing, Will? What's up with you? Because that's what could have happened.
Yeah, he should be
I hope
concerned
Sam
about
Mitchell
his
comes
own-
to Adelaide and he realises how bad this is. It's because they're going to play... they're playing Port Adelaide. They'll be fine. But, I mean, maybe next week. Maybe next week could be an issue.
Yeah, against Geelong on Easter Monday.
Yeah. Oh, true. That's going to be a good game. And now Will Day's out. Let's move to a couple of absolute robberies that happened over the weekend. So, the biggest one, the Rising Star nomination went to Levi Ashcroft. How the fuck didn't Lawler win it?
I know. And the thing
That's
is,
the
like-
biggest robbery of the weekend.
No. What should have happened is that they remove the age limit and they give the nomination to Riley Bice. I think that was the obvious
Well,
option.
I mean, obviously.
that
That's,
was the obvious option.
yeah, but I mean, without changing the rules. I mean, we're not going to change
Yeah,
the
well-
rules to...
well-
I mean, Riley Bice has already locked up all Australians, so that's okay. But, I mean, he doesn't need the little awards like the Rising Star.
Yeah.
He's winning all Australian.
Yeah,
Maybe
but-
Sydney Best and Fairest. I mean, Brownlow's not out of the question at this stage.
But that is a robbery. I think, like, yes, Ashcroft played well, but to be honest, I think Lawler played better on the.
Lawler was a better
in the game-
player
in the
anyway.
game. In the game, he was better.
He was probably Richmond's up there with their best player. Levi Ashcroft had a good performance. Yeah, great. But
But you can probably name 6 or 7 other Brisbane players that were better.
yeah, exactly. I think this is an absolute robbery. Now, Lawler had 22 touches. Ashcroft had 22 touches, 6 score involvements and a goal. Yeah, who cares? Lawler did more. That was a robbery.
Oh, and 95 fantasy points as well for
Yeah,
Lawler.
well, Lawler had 95 fantasy points. So obviously that's what we're looking at. That's why I'm picking
That's
Lawler.
what most people are looking at these days.
Yeah. So hopefully Lawler does get his nomination pretty shortly. I'm sure he will.
I'm pretty sure he'll get it this week because
You think Fremantle's the day? I mean, Murphy Reid could have a performance. He's shown some good signs so far. Murphy Reid could fill his boots. He won the game for him last week, so kicked the winning goal, or the sealer, I guess you call it. But yeah, the draft has definitely proven so far this year. It's been a super draft already. We've seen
I
so
think
many
it's
great
definitely
players.
proven it. Yeah, and there's some other players that have just started in Trevalia for St Kilda. That,
Josh Smiley hasn't even got a game yet
Josh
from
Smiley
injury.
hasn't got a game. Bo Allen for West Coast hasn't got a game yet.
Yeah, what the fuck are they doing with him? I think he's been
he'll-
injured, but
Yeah, but he's come back the last 2 weeks in the waffle. He'll come back. He'll come in this week. He'll play his
Dave.
first game.
in the retro jumper too,
Yeah,
that
oh.
could be theatre
Yeah.
at the Adelaide Oval.
Oh, it could be an absolute.
I think I don't know. Maybe West Coast.
It's a box office game. Everyone's eyes are going to be glued to that TV.
12:50 Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
Get set for it.
Yeah, there's no way no one's like. Yes, you can see the Gold Coast ram the Roos up the arse, but I think everyone's eyes are gonna be locked on that game.
Yeah, was it 16th versus 18th?
Yeah,
I mean, what a
I think it's
contest.
the most anticipated game teams that are 16 and 17.
I mean, it's
Wow.
it's absolutely criminal. The game hasn't been sold out at Adelaide Oval yet. It's criminal.
Oh, yeah.
How's that not sold out yet? Absolutely insane. Anyway, let's move to the lesser robbery of the weekend. The Crows got robbed. Whatever. It's just
Right in
usual.
front of me.
So obviously the Isaac Rankin decision was wrong, to say the least. Now, for people who are saying it was a mark, it wasn't a mark. He didn't have control of the football.
No.
But what the free kick was 100% there.
Oh yeah.
Rankin got pushed by Collins, took him out of the marking contest. It's either a push or it's a marking infringement.
Yeah.
Now, does he kick the goal? You expect him to kick that, Isaac Rankin. He was injured, though. Now, if that was a one-off thing, you'd kind of say, yeah, look, it happens to the best of us. But this is the, fourth time now in basically a year and a half of footy that the Crows have been apologised to after the game. Now, you can wipe your smile off your face because I know you're a Port fan and you're like, yeah, look, whatever. But this is when they use their... I mean, I don't even know if it's an excuse at this point. I mean, it's a little bit unfair. So, round 15, 2023, Jordan Dawson got a non-free kick against Collingwood. They lost by 2 points. Round 24 of 2023, Ben Keys not given a goal against Sydney. Lost by 1 point. That hit the post, though. But anyway.
Yeah.
Round 6... 2024, Sam Draper, non-free kick, lost by 3 points when he dove on top of the footy. And then this year, round 4, Isaac Rankin, lose by 1 point. Can we all just admit that this isn't being talked about in the wider public enough, like by, media, AFL media, like traditional AFL media? The umpiring this season has been fucking woeful.
Yes, it has been.
It's costing teams games. And look, I'm not one to sit here and fucking sit on the Crows and like, oh, they got fucking robbed. But they did. Also the Philthorpe one as well. I know a lot of people will say he was down there and Mac Andrew was an accidental hit, but a lot of the time that is paid as high.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the thing is that, yes, most of the time people get angry at the fact is that he's paid because what is Mac Andrew really supposed to do? Because Philthorpe's on the ground.
Mac Andrew is just standing up and he's just unlucky, but it is paid all the time.
It is paid all the time, and yes, that's a free kick to rank him because that's a marking infringement. But the one thing that is, well, there's actually two things that are annoying me at the moment. The insufficient intent is just it's a roll of the dice at the moment.
Yeah, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, Bailey Dale got pinned against him from Collingwood game.
Yeah.
The umpiring was 19 free kicks in favour of Collingwood. They won that game.
I'm not expecting it to be 50-50, like even. I'm not expecting that. But it's such a lopsided free kick count is going to influence the game.
Yeah.
100% it's going to influence the game. And if the umpiring department and AFL come out and say it's not, they're bullshitting.
And I hate I know you make that point there, but that's every single time a free kick count is like off. The AFL commentators be like, "Oh, it's not supposed. It doesn't have to be even." Yeah, I don't think that's the people's issue.
No,
it's the fact that it's influencing games.
Yes,
and it's happened already. At least twice this season. We already know the Crows game with that one in the last quarter, and the Collingwood one obviously earlier in the year. There's other games I'm sure many people could bring up. But it's just getting worse and worse.
And the other role that is astounding me at the moment is this 15-metre kicks. Because sometimes a 15-metre kick is paid, and then a 20-metre kick isn't. And a lot of the 10-metre kick is paid.
A lot of the time I'm seeing this year is when the ball is turned over by a team, they will pay the mark. But if it is a player, like your own team kicking it short, they will call play on.
Yeah.
That is something I've noticed.
And it's also, which is, I think someone said on radio, I can't remember who it was, but it was in this week, and they said it seems to be paid more when the teams are in the defensive half.
Yeah.
For the fact is that they want the ball to be the ball to move forward.
Yeah.
So that is, and it's crap, and the fact is that it's interpreted by 10 different umpires, 4 different umpires on the game. Every single umpire has a different interpretation of the one role. And that's pathetic.
It's one of the rules that you would think would be the most easiest to, adjudicate, because it's 15 metres. Most umpires should know how long that is, especially when they see it all the time.
Yeah.
That should be something that, I understand, like holding the ball is still fucking confusing. Like, no one knows what holding the ball is at the moment. Again, it's another fucking issue that we sit here at the start of the season. We're going, what the hell is holding the ball? We don't know. Last season, they changed it halfway through the year.
Yeah.
It was good for a couple of weeks, and then again, we were all confused, and we just let it go. Again, at the start of the year, holding the ball, we don't know what the fuck's going on, and we're all sitting here confused.
And the thing is, with the 15-metre rule, is that it's said on commentary a few times, I think BT used to say it a lot, is the fact is that the grass lines on it, how they do it, is that they're 5 metres each, I think it was, or 10 metres each.
They're usually a certain metre each.
Yeah, and they should be, someone should tell the umpires every game, okay, this ground, Adelaide Oval, each square is 10 metres each. So they should be able to see with their eyes, because it's not hard to determine, it's in the middle of this square, so it has to get to the other square. It can't be that hard to figure that out.
Yeah.
It
I'm
really
sure,
can't be.
you would think it'd be fucking simple, or they just needed, they can't do it now. I don't like the look of how they did it last year with the holding the ball decision, because people were all confused, but then they changed the rule, and then it was all fucking confusing, and then, the game changed as well. They can't change it now. They should, like you said, if the meterage of the squares are 15, whatever. Next year, with the rule changes, if they have to make some fucking rule changes, I don't think they should. But if they are going to change it, because there's clearly some sort of adjudication that's been told to them that hasn't been told to us about kicking the ball a certain distance, make it 20 if you have to. Make it 20 metres, or I don't want them to change it on terms of zones and stuff, because I think that would be stupid. But That is another option as well. If you're inside your D50, you can't kick it backwards. I don't like that as an idea, or it's not paid as a mark. I mean, it's not paid as a mark. I don't like that as an idea, but if you're going to make a rule change, because that's basically what they're doing at the moment to an extent. If you kick it backwards 10 meters or 15 meters, they're going to lean on the side of, that's not 15. But if you go forward and you kick it short and it's 14 meters, they usually will pay it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They can't change the rule now. Don't fucking do that now.
I don't want to change, but it would have been nice if we got the explanation at the start of the year. It's like, okay, the one rule we're going to focus on now is the 15-meter rule. Because now because
there was an issue with it. I mean, a lot of the time people were kicking at 10 meters, and
everyone's like, that's not 15. So then they did make the rule, but now it's interpreted depending on where you are on the field, and that's not fair, really, because 15 meters is 15 meters wherever you look on the field.
Yeah. But it like you said, it depends on what umpire it is. Depends on where it is on the ground, apparently. And there shouldn't be all these issues with a certain rule. So anyway, let's move on from the umpiring. That was the West robbery anyway. Lawler absolutely robbed of a rising star. But before we go any further, a message from me. If you guys enjoy the content and you want to see more, then make sure to become a member on the channel today. For just $4 a month, you can get early access to video essays, access to live recordings of the Boundary Riders podcast, along with exclusive stream perks and much more. And something that I'm super excited to introduce to channel membership this year is the members vote. Every week with the review, you can cast your vote to have your say on the Boundary Riders medal. So for all that and more, click the link down below, and for the added bonus of getting an extra inch onto your member, then do it now. But anyway, let's get back into the content. Let's move into our segment, Overreact or Fair Call or Fair Enough, whatever we want to call it. Anyway, let's get into this segment because I really like it. Seems like you guys like it. We've been posting the little clips of this segment over on the socials, and people seem to enjoy it. It's been getting some decent views, and we love views here. Anyway, let's move into our first question. It's about your team, Port Adelaide.
Oh, awesome. So this is going to be a very honest opinion.
Yeah, so to a Port Adelaide fan, are the Power a bottom four team? Is that an overreaction or a fair call? Because Kane Corns has put that on the agenda over the week.
I think it's an overreaction only because they don't have a forward line. And Butters has been injured. And there's no... Yeah, I think the fact is that Ollie Lord is very young. And Georgios is playing well in a team that is struggling to score. I think it's... the Port won't finish bottom four.
Ooh, that's a big call. Now, I would agree with you on the fact that I think West Coast are going to finish in the bottom four. I think Richmond are going to finish in the bottom four. That's the thing, though. I mean, you want to say North Melbourne are going to finish in the bottom four, but they've shown signs that they want to improve. They've shown signs of it.
Did you see the weekend?
I know, but before that, they were very good against Melbourne, and the week before, and against Adelaide, they were in that game for 3.5 quarters. So you want to say that. I don't think they're a bottom four side either. Right now, they're playing like it. And I think with their best mids in, once Butters gets a little bit more match fit, I think they will be better off for it. And hopefully they can bank a couple of wins together. But I think it is a bit of an overreaction. I tend to agree with you. Next up, though, overreaction or fair enough. Sam Darcy is the best player in the AFL at the moment.
At the moment, yeah, it's a fair call.
You think it's a fair call?
Yeah. I think he's dominating.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this guy he's so weird looking. Like, he's fucking 108 centimeters and moves like a prime midfielder.
And the way he grabs the ball, it's like he shouldn't, yes, he grabs at the highest point, but he can grab it from anywhere. He's playing that brilliantly at the moment. At the moment, he's the best in the comp.
I mean, if you looked at it as well, if Bontempelli, Treloar, if all their best players are in and Darcy's performing well, I think the Dogs could be right up there this year. If they can get those players back and they can hit form, they're banking up a couple of wins at the start of the season. I think they're a real chance against the Lions this weekend. If he can perform well, he is honestly a chance for the Coleman. I think he is now. If he can, if 5 goals in a performance against a Fremantle, he's like one of the best defenses in the comp. I think he can get there. But I think right now he's definitely one of the best.
I think Hogan plays West Coast again.
True.
And he's only played 2 games and he's already second on the Coleman.
That
That's
is
the
true.
thing.
But I mean, also the two teams that he's played against, he scored 4 and then 9. So I think he's not going to have those performances every week.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, you're right. Jesse Hogan, I think he'll be right up there. I mean, at least top 5.
He will be, yeah.
If he stays fit the whole season, top 5 Coleman.
I'll call this. It will be a very close one this year. Like, yes, there could be but Hogan won it by a lot last year, and Curnow and Mackay won it by a lot. I think this one could be really close. The fact is that, yeah, it could be Sam Darcy, Jesse Hogan, Ben King could give it a good run.
Riley Philthorpe's had a good start.
Philthorpe, Nick Larkey didn't click on any on the weekend, but he can score 4 on an easy day.
Yeah.
So I think this year will be a very close one.
The key forward's back. That's what we're calling
I think they're back. They're back this year.
Yeah, the key forward's back. And then finally, Ruckman are being overpaid. Overreact or fair enough? So the reason why I bring this up is because recently TDK has been offered $12 million over 7 years. Brodie Grundy's one of the highest paid players in the game. Do you think Ruckman are getting overpaid? Do you think they're as important as their paychecks are suggesting?
I think it's an overreaction, but besides from Tom De Koning from St Kilda, I think it's a bit of overreaction. I think you need a dominant ruckman. I think if you have a dominant ruckman, you have a huge advantage.
Well, you think about it, the best ruckman in the game right now: Cherry, Marshall, Gawn, even Nankervis to an extent, but I think that's a little bit different. You're looking at those sort of players, Tom De Koning obviously as well, but those players, they're a ruckman, but they're also like their fourth midfielder. Those are the best ruckmen, the ones who can get you clearances, the ones that can win you at stoppage, not just the taps. Like the taps are obviously great, but yeah, I think the ruckman's definitely evolved into almost a fourth midfielder now.
Yeah, I think it's an overreaction to think that they're getting paid too much.
Yeah.
Besides, maybe if Tom De Koning goes for that money, which I expect him to, I think that's overs.
Yeah.
But besides from that, I think, like I said, you need a dominant ruckman these days, and will elevate your team and especially your midfield to the next level.
Do you think now a million's like your better players, $1 million? Do you think $1 million's fair enough for like the best ruckman in the game?
Yeah, I wouldn't go any more than 1.2. Yeah, 1.2 is probably the most I'd go.
Yeah, so currently I think Tom De Koning would be about 1.7. So that's a lot. He would be the highest paid player in the game. So I don't think he does. Like, it's not that he doesn't deserve it, but I just don't think he's worth that much.
To be honest, I don't see him being like, if he could kick goals on a consistent basis, maybe, because he has another string to his bow. If he's getting averaging close to 20 disposals a game, he's getting there.
In his current form, he's probably worth one of the most highest paid players in the game.
I don't think the way a ruckman plays, they're not playing as the best player, because your best player is normally going to be a midfielder. Let's be honest, because they're the ones that are going to get you the ball and kick forward. Like, let's be honest. You see Peter Laddams on the weekend kick the ball at half time to the fucking to the car park.
Well, he was centering it, all right.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that the ruckmen aren't the best at the foot skills. They're not, and sometimes they have good moments, but they're not always the best decision makers either.
I think the best ruckman as well is the best team ruckman.
Yeah.
Not many ruckmen. Like, you think about it, Tom De Koning, he's individually really performing well at the moment. But he obviously, look at his team, they're 0-4. Now, that's not his fault, but he's individually doing really well. But you look at teams like, even Brisbane with Oscar McInerney.
Yeah.
No one really talks about him as the best ruckman in the game. But if you look at him right now, at Brisbane, he is one of the most important players on their list.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big point as well. So individually, when you look at their pay rate, being a 1.7 is a huge amount for a player who, the best part of a ruckman is how they work with their team.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they're tapping the ball to the best players.
Yeah.
They're tapping the ball to make the midfielders look better.
Yeah.
Because it's a very underrated stat, but it's very true. Hit-outs to advantage are a huge deal at this day and age.
Yeah.
Hit-outs to advantage.
Because the game is about territory, and if you knock it down to your best mids to get the ball forward, that's when the better teams are winning off, pressure, like tackle pressure, turnovers in the forward half,
and score from stoppage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an overreaction.
Yeah. But it is 1.7 is a lot.
Yeah.
Let's move into our preview to round 5, Gather Round. So excited for Gather Round. Starts on Thursday night, massive game. We're going to the majority of the... Well, we can't go to Thursday night because I've got something on, so that's a little unfortunate. But the rest of the games, we're going to at Adelaide Oval, I believe. Yeah, we're going all the games at Adelaide Oval. We're going to Sunday afternoon's game, St Kilda v Giants, which I think is going to be a good game.
Yeah,
St Kilda are in good form.
Yeah, I think St Kilda is surprising a few teams, and if you don't take them seriously, they'll buy you.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely changed their game plan from midway through last year. They're a lot more about attacking pressure as well, and they're not much of just the lethargic, slow team, and they won't get away with that at Norwood Oval on the weekend if they have to do that.
And the thing that's an advantage for them is that they've played there last year.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be an interesting game, and of course, Guinea's payback game. Is he going to come in to give Port Adelaide a bit of a chance? Maybe I give him a bit of a chance.
I do,
They're a
because
response
the fact
team.
is they are the biggest response team in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do, and it is the biggest. It is the biggest game of the round.
Yeah.
With the amount of hype and anticipation.
I think I think before the game, Peter what the fuck's his name? Peter Malinauskas, our premier, should come out with Andrew Dillon on a podium, and with all the hype around that game, give Ken Hinkley $20,000 for the fine that he had to pay.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking ridiculous that this game is on and they're putting this as all the hype around it because of that issue.
Yeah.
But then give him a fine for it. This game wouldn't have as much hype without that moment.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, Peter Malinauskas is our premier, by the way, guys. Anyway, let's move into the preview to round 5, Gather Round. Let's get straight into the first game that I want to take a look at. Adelaide v Geelong, the game that kicks off Gather Round. And, of course, Adelaide hosting the first game yet again. I thought maybe Port Adelaide would get the first go this time. But, nonetheless, this is a massive contest. Geelong got a good win last week against Melbourne. And the Crows have been one of the best teams of the comp so far this year. Did lose to the Gold Coast, though. So, a couple of interesting topics to look about this game. The Crows are coming off a 5-day break and obviously played in really warm conditions up in the Gold Coast and fought out a really tough contest to the final moments, while the Cats had a pretty cruisy game and coming off a 6-day break. Now, the Crows have probably been the better team so far this season and have been very potent up forward, as most of you would know. And the Cats have been a bit up and down. They had a really good performance against Fremantle in round 1, and then since then they've really been poor. Melbourne was a little bit of a bounce back last week, but it was Melbourne at the end of the day. Now, Blitzars didn't play last week. He was a late out, and this will be the second time the Crows have played a really good defence. Obviously, the Gold Coast last week was their first test, which they did fail. Of course, that was a little bit controversial, the ending part of that game, but still, they did lose it. And I think really the big talking point on the Adelaide Crows is they have to find some more goal kickers. On the weekend, they had 5 from Philthorpe, 4 from Walker, and 3 from Fogarty. And the rest of the team, I think, they only had 2 other goal kickers. So I think against a team like Geelong, they're going to have to find some different avenues to goal to win this game. And on Geelong's point of view, they need to find some consistency, need to find that benchmark where they can hit every week. I think that last week was a little bit of a turning point. Now, I'm actually going to be picking Geelong in this game. I think they're just starting to get their season up and going. They haven't been perfect by any means so far, but their record in Adelaide is pretty solid, and they are coming off of an easier game and that extra day's break. So that's why I'm picking the Cats at the moment, and I do think that Jeremy Cameron's going to play a lot more forward this week rather than going up the ground and playing a floating role. I think he's going to play a lot more deep forward. After that Friday night, massive contest between Collingwood and Sydney at Adelaide Oval, of course. The Pies coming off 3 really good performances in their last 3 games. The Sydney, very good last week against North Melbourne, and the game before that, they were able to seal it at the death to get their first win of the season. I think the Pies' number 1 priority going into this week is they have to fix up their missed opportunities kicking a goal. They honestly should have won that game against Carlton by 40, 50 points. They missed a lot of opportunities in that 3rd and 4th quarter to make that margin a lot bigger. And Carlton, the game wasn't even done until the last 10 minutes, even though most people realised that Collingwood were going to win. But the scoreline wasn't too far away from Carlton in the end. On Sydney, though, very interested to see how they line up. We've got Logan McDonald, who was in the reserves last week, had a pretty good performance, kicked 3 goals. goals in a loss. So I'm interested to see if the Swans will bring in Logan McDonald straight away, or if they go with Peter Adams. Even though he had that kick that most people have seen in that set shot that he missed, he has actually performed quite well for Sydney so far this year. You got to give him his credit because he hasn't had a very good start in Sydney over the last few years. The last couple of weeks, though, he has performed well. He's really done well to hold up that second ruck spot. He has done enough up forward. So I'd be interested to see if the Swans will decide to go with Laddams or McDonald at this stage. There has been some talk potentially of McDonald going back. However, considering he did play the VFL up forward, I'd be surprised if we see him down back. I would give him another week in the reserves and then maybe potentially bring him in round 6. That's just me. Now, I think the biggest matchup's going to be between Nick Dacos and James Jordan. I'd be very surprised if Jordan goes to anyone else. And the one thing that Dacos has to keep eye on is the fact that Jordan does tend to jump off of his opponent when they are attacking. He does try to chain up on offense, so if Dacos isn't playing a defensive mindset as well on Jordan, then Jordan can get in the other way. But I'm going to be tipping Collingwood. I think the fact that their early season form has been much better than Sydney, I do trust them a bit, and I think they look a little bit more potent up forward in my opinion. Cleary and Hanley both performed quite well for Sydney on the weekend, but it was against North Melbourne and they were well down. However, my brother, who of course will be getting into his tips later in the video, but he has actually tipped Sydney. He has said that no Houston will be a massive out for them. They did struggle in opening round without him. The forward line of the Swans will be able to stretch the Collingwood defence, and the Swans would have gained a lot of confidence from last week against the Roos. McCartan as well was very dominant against Nick Larkey last week. I think it's going to be a very close game. Adelaide Oval, the one other thing as well is Collingwood do have a good record at Adelaide Oval, so that's another reason why I'm tipping them as well. But I think it's going to be a great contest. Saturday evening, this game, at Norwood Oval, Bulldogs v Brisbane. I think this is a real danger game for the Lions. They haven't been performing at their best by any means so far this season, but they've been able to bank up early wins. Now, the Dogs have been punching up above their weight class throughout the entirety of the first month of the season with all their injuries. This will be an interesting call on Brisbane's point of view, who goes to Sam Darcy, because right now he's one of the best players in the competition. The only way that the Bulldogs win this game is if Darcy has a massive performance. The thing the Lions have to do is lock him away. The obvious answer would be Harris Andrews. However, if Andrews goes to Darcy, he won't be able to play his intercept game. So we'll have to wait and see if the Brisbane Lions would prefer his intercept game or his defensive lockdown role. Now, one thing on the Lions that I don't think people have failed to mention is the fact that even though they don't have Danaher, they have still had a really good run with their forward line. They've got a different mixture in there. I like the look of Logan Morris so far this season. He's really grown into his own. I think Charlie Cameron's on the cusp of having a massive contest, so who knows if he can do it this week. And the Bulldogs defense have been able to hold up well, but I do think they're going to have to be exceptionally good. Everything's going to have to go right in their defense to win this game. That's why I'm going to be ticking Brisbane. I think that their mids will get on top in this contest, and if they can get it inside their forward 50 enough, the Lions, they'll kick a winning score. And I think Harris Andrews is the perfect matchup for Sam Darcy, so I think he can lock him away. And if the Bulldogs can't get it to him enough, then I really don't find another way that the Bulldogs can kick a winning score here. Aaron Norton, I guess, is another option, so he's going to have a massive performance as well for them to get over the line, the Dogs, and I just can't see him being able to do that. And then the final game I want to take a look at, preview quickly, is Melbourne v Essendon. Saturday night, standalone game at the Adelaide Oval as well. This game, I think, is 50-50. After coming off the bye, I'm going to be interested to see how the Bombers come into it. Last time these two teams met and gathered around was in 2023. Essendon actually won that game, surprisingly, when Melbourne were in a good form. Now, the Bombers did show some decent signs against Port Adelaide in that final quarter when they were able to break away from them a couple of weeks ago. But the game was a scrappy grind, and Port Adelaide really were with them until the final few minutes. That can't be taken into huge account, but on Demons' point of view, they've shown a couple of okay signs, but overall, they have been incredibly disappointing. And I think if Simon Goodwin does go and lose this game, I think his job will start to be put into jeopardy. So it's a massive game for the Demons. Now, I'm going to be picking Essendon because I think their weakest line is their defense and Melbourne's weakest line is their offense. If you take those two factors out of the game, I think I trust Essendon's forward line a little bit more. It may not have the bigger name, but I think that I trust them a bit more. They looked really good a couple of weeks ago against Port Adelaide, so I'm actually picking them to have a good performance. At the moment, Melbourne's midfield really doesn't stand up at all. So if Essendon's midfielders, who have probably been their best so far this year, can stand up with Caldwell, Merritt, if they can find their own ball and get it into their forward line enough, I think they can kick a winning score. However, my brother has tipped Melbourne. He has said that the Demons will be getting a rocket throughout the midweek. on their contested game and need to change it up in their midfield core. He's thinking Rivers and Harvey Langford should be getting more opportunities, and he does see that Max Gawn will dominate in the ruck. I think he's really looking at it as a backs against the wall kind of game, that the Demons are going to respond. This one should have been swapped around with the game against Brisbane and the Western Bulldogs, put that at Norwood, the Melbourne Essendon game, and bring the Brisbane Bulldogs game to Adelaide Oval. But I mean, I guess that's in hindsight. They made these fixtures months ago. Let's get to our full tips. So my tips for Gather Round are Geelong to beat Adelaide, Collingwood to beat the Swans, the Gold Coast to beat North Melbourne, Carlton to beat West Coast, Brisbane to beat the Dogs, Essendon to beat Melbourne, Fremantle to beat the Tigers, Giants to beat St Kilda, and the Hawks to beat Port Adelaide. Now, my brother's tips for Gather Round are Geelong to beat Adelaide, Sydney to beat Collingwood, Gold Coast to beat North Melbourne, Carlton to beat the Eagles, Lions to beat the Dogs, Melbourne to beat Essendon, Dockers to beat Richmond, GWS to win over the Saints, and the Hawks to beat Port Adelaide. Now, of course, if you've been watching the previews in the previous round so far this year, me and my brother have been giving a certainty tip every single week. So this week, I am picking Carlton, who lost last week to Collingwood. I'm picking them to beat the Eagles. And my brother, surprisingly, this was a very weird choice when he told me this, but he's adamant. He has picked Melbourne, who lost last week to Geelong, to beat Essendon this week. So I have tipped completely against that. He's put his certainty tip on it. Of course, if you don't remember, every single certainty tip we get wrong this year, guys, we'll have to eat a chili per wrong answer in the Boundary Riders Award live stream at the end of the season. So I've got 2 wrong so far, so 2 chilies. My brother's only got 1 wrong. Hopefully Essendon can get up and I can get that one right. Let's take a look at our tipping comp. So this is for the channel. We had about 28 to 30 of you join at the start of the season. At the moment, we have Ethan Sports, who has jumped into the top spot after using his Joker this week. He was able to get 12 tips, which was 6. He has jumped into the top spot by 1 tip. And I think the top 4 at the moment, Paul's Vikings, the top dog, and Lucas have all used their certainty tips at this stage. At the moment, I am sitting in 12th spot with 25 tips. So 6 off the pace, which isn't too bad, I would say, because I haven't used my Joker at the moment. So I'm pretty happy where I'm sitting at the moment. My brother only got 4 last week. Really embarrassing. He should be ashamed of himself. He only got 4 and he dropped behind me. So he's dropped all the way down to 15. Up next, we have my brother's betting segment, of course, Bros Bets. I'm calling it that now. Deal with it. Have you got a special one for us this week?
Yeah, I think it's just a simple one. I think big game at Norwood. Brisbane v
Western Bulldogs.
I'm going to take Libba for 25. He's been dominating all season. He had a bit of attention last week with O'Meara go to him, but he still picked up 30. I'm going to take the easy one and just go 25 for him. It's just over $1.32 at the moment. So
absolute robbery. This game's at Norwood Oval, not at Adelaide Oval.
Oh, 100%.
Should have kicked Melbourne and Essendon over there. Or Carlton, West Coast.
Like Lockie Neal said, how did the Premiers not end up at Adelaide Oval?
Freaking ridiculous. And the Bulldogs were a finals team last year. Except we've got Melbourne and Essendon, who didn't even make finals last year, or Carlton and West Coast, one who scraped into the fucking 8. Anyway, ridiculous. But not a bad bet. That's not in your bet for the rest of the week?
No, we've got a special one coming up.
All right, great. Good news, guys. Here's my brother's segment, Bros Bets.
Hey guys, let's get ready for Gather Round. First, we'll get into our Thursday night same game multi, Adelaide v Geelong. First leg is Jake Saligo for 25 plus disposals. Second leg is Patrick Dangerfield for 15 plus disposals. Third leg is Sam De Koning for 15 plus disposals. And our final leg, Shannon Neal to kick a goal, valued at $3.40. Next, we'll get into my certainty bet this week. I'm taking Sam Flanders for 25 plus disposals against North Melbourne, valued at $1.48. Finally, we'll get into our outside the boundary bet. This week, I'm taking Mabiel Scholl to kick 3 plus goals against the Power on Sunday night, valued at $3.30. And as always, guys, gamble responsibly.
So hopefully this is the final time I have to mention this for the week, but it is the AFL Fantasy segment coming up. Before we get into the review of it, obviously you had a very good week, very good score.
Yeah, I was very surprised that, to be honest, how I did get the score, really. Like, it started off well with Bailey Smith and Riley Bias on Saturday night, and it just turned into a very good game with Jason Horne-Francis getting back into form.
Yeah, so I did see the top score of the weekend was 2,035, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So you got 1909, I think that's pretty sure. Yeah, so you got about 1,000 off, but I did notice that your rank climbed up a lot. But I think a lot of the top teams of the week of the AFL Fantasy so far didn't get a very good score. No, because a lot of people jumped up. Because I halved my rank in 1 week basically. off a score that was like okay, like 1860 or 1820, I think I got. So a lot of the top teams lost a lot of points.
I think it was the fact is that
A lot of them have Cherry as well.
yeah, a lot of them had Cherry. Bias, a lot of people wouldn't have had in their team.
Yeah, I think he was only owned by like 25% before the game, and he would have, and a lot of them would have had him on the bench, wouldn't been able to get him in like myself, who fucking stupidly got rid of him. Well, not rid of him, but put him on my bench and didn't have an emergency tag on him.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that people would have had an issue with, but yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that a lot of people dropped off. You jumped to 186?
182.
182. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
I think that I am super surprised I got it all the way to that. I was a bit when I woke up Sunday morning and I saw my rank was outside the top through. I think it was just outside the top 2,000. I knew that I was going to gain a bit because I still had 8 players in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was a lot of players, other people around that were having a hard week.
Yeah. There were a couple of other players who didn't perform too well on the weekend either. So a lot of popular players, but I guess we kind of dodged those few bullets. But yeah, I mean, in the end, pretty good result. So let's get into the rest of the review for AFL Fantasy in round 4. I had a pretty decent performance in the end. I got 1,828. My round 4 rank was 11,000. I thought it was a little bit better than that, but that's not too bad. I mean, I'll take it. My overall rank actually went up, though. I'm in 5,945. So I think it was in 10,000 last week. So to nearly halve that, I think it's pretty good. Now, my good performances over the weekend were Harry Sheezel with the 125. Jordan Dawson did really well because he was about 30 odd at halftime. He got all the way to 118. He was my captain, so 236. Clayton Oliver, brilliant with the 104. Ashcroft with the 105. Levi Ashcroft with the 82. Lawler did really well. He got 95 in the end. Jason Horne-Francis finally responded. He got 125. And Bailey Smith, 127. Also, Riley Sanders got 92. The one thing that most people will be happy about, and the one thing that I'm really agitated about, is Riley Bice. What a performance. 125. I had him in the team. I had Luke Trainer as my emergency in this the game beforehand. He got 74. I was like, 74. Bice won't be able to score much more than that. Got 125. I shouldn't have doubted my man. Riley Bice had a massive performance. If you haven't got him in yet, you have to get him in. Riley Bice, really good performance. Seems to be having that role off of halfback / the wing, and he seems to be used quite a lot for the Swans. He's got a really lethal left foot, so keep your eye on him. His price just rocketed after that performance. He's on 387 now, so I don't think the plane has left just yet. I think you can still get him this week, but other than that, I think you kind of leave it be. Or you bring him in as a player to play on the field, which is actually what I'm going to do this week. But before we get into my future plans for the week, we have to talk about my brother's team because if I don't talk about it, he's going to get really angry. He had a massive week. He scored 1,909, so that was ranked 954 in AFL Fantasy. He had a lot of the same things as me, but James Peatling, he had in the team 112. That was a great performance from him. He had Jaden Short with a 97, Jordan Clark with the 92, while I had Holmes, which was the problem. He did have Riley Bice in the team with the 125. He took the vice captain of Bailey Smith early on. He got 127, so 254. And a lot of the other stuff is pretty similar to my team. He didn't have Lawler. He had Sid Draper. But he scored a little bit more than me. But the most important part of his team is the fact that his overall rank skyrocketed once again. He was at 2,000 last week. He has jumped into the top 200. He has hit 182 now overall rank. So great performance from him. He's going to have a lot of talking about it for the next few weeks, I think. Hopefully it starts to drop down because I can't listen to it anymore. But anyway, let's get to my trades and his trades for the week. So my trades for this week, very interesting one. I'll be interested to see what you guys think of my trades for this week. But what I've done is a little bit interesting. So I have got rid of Joel Frazier this week. I've picked up Harley. And I've got rid of Murphy Reid. And I've picked up Zach Merritt. So I've chucked my faith into Riley Bice. I've chucked Bice into the team along with Luke Trainer at this stage. And I've gone for a premium Zach Merritt. I've looked at Merritt's fixture in the next couple of weeks. He has got Melbourne this week. He's got West Coast after that. Collingwood, North Melbourne. Those 4 games don't really see a tagger. Maybe North Melbourne bring in a tagger, but I don't see really anyone going to him. He has a pretty decent record at Adelaide Oval in my opinion. I don't really have a captain's option, and I think that Murphy Reid, he has Richmond this week. He could score well. But I just believe that this is the right time to go for a big money player. I've got the money there Joel Frazier had a really poor week. His price is dropping now. So I thought the best decision now would be to get rid of him, use that money for Harley to put on my bench, and then I can go for a really big upgrade. Murphy Reid, he may score a little bit more. He may have a really good week this week against the Tigers. He's playing a little bit half forward or whatever, so he may very well have a good score, and I may rue to regret it. But I don't see him. He's a 462 in price right now. I can't see him getting more than maybe 500k. I thought that there's no point in holding Murphy Reid for an extra few weeks to get 100,000 coin when I can go now and pick up Zach Merrett when he's got a 4-week window where he should be able to score very nicely. So that's where I'm kind of thinking at this stage. Now, my brother's trades for this week, he has got rid of Sid Draper, picked up Harley for a little bit of cash, and he's got rid of Joel Frazier and picked up Luke Ryan. Interesting one there. Luke Ryan hasn't had a massive start to this year. I'll have a quick look at his statistics. He is averaging currently 89, I believe, in the last 3 weeks, so not a lot. I'm guessing he's picking him up because he's looking at the next couple of weeks that he can't score much lower. And last week he scored 109, so he did get a good score last week, but his break-even's really high still. I'll be interested to see if he does change that one because he does have Jordan Clark as well, and Luke Ryan has dropped already 138k, so that's a bit of an interesting trade, to be honest. I'll have to ask him more about that. Looking into next week, my captain is going to be Zach Merrett. I don't really like picking a player straight in as my captain, but I'm going to give him the faith. My vice captain is going to be Tom Koenig. I think most people will go with this week. He scored 100 in every game bar one so far this year, which was last week. Against the West Coast Eagles, their ruckman is Bailey Williams. I think that Tom Koenig can have a field day here. So I'm going to put him as the vice, and if that doesn't work out, then I'll pick Zach Merrett as my captain. But pretty happy with that performance. At this stage, I've only got 2 rookies in my midfield. Nathan O'Driscoll's kind of that mid-price player, but Ashcroft had a really good performance last week. Lawler had a really good performance. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm kind of looking to trade out a couple of these players that are rookies, looking to trade them out and try and get a rookie off my bench and a rookie in the team, try and trade them out and then be able to upgrade to a good player. So that's kind of my planning in the next couple of weeks. I had a really good week last week, so I'm really happy with that performance. It scored about 80 less than my brother, and if I had Bice into the team, if I stuck with my boy, I would have had 50 more points. So that was my mistake. Sorry to doubt you, Riley Bice, my hero. Now we'll just take a quick look at our AFL Fantasy competition for the channel. Pub Feed with his sources still sitting on top. He's done really well so far. He currently sits 50 points in front of my brother, who jumped up a couple of spots this week. He was sitting in 4th, I believe, last week, but he's jumped right up into 2nd spot with a great performance. One of the highest scoring teams in the league. I can see Jegs Bang Bros got the exact same score as him. I'm sitting in 18th spot, which I'm pretty happy with. I had a pretty poor first couple of weeks of the season, so I've jumped from about mid-range. I think it was at around 32 in the first couple of rounds. I've jumped up to 18th, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm about 200 points away, or nearly 300. No, about 250 points away from top spot. So a little bit far away, but I think Zach Merrett's inclusion could be wonders for me. Now, before we move into the last segment of the episode, I wanted to quickly ask you about your trade for AFL Fantasy. So I thought I'd save this for after the review because I was talking about it throughout the review part of it. Your trade to Luke Ryan, I was interested by that one because he hasn't had a very good start to the season and his price seems to probably be dropping a bit more. So why now?
Because I have Richmond.
Yeah.
And last week, yes, they had a good game against Brisbane, but are they going to be able to put up that performance week in, week out? The other reason was when they played them, not last time they played Richmond, the time before that, he had 36 and he got 100. I think he got 150 in that game.
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to be very... And also, during the game of the Bulldogs, late in the game, he got his marks, but he got a lot of kick-ins. And that's what drove his score up.
Okay.
So I think that could change, but there's not a lot of other players around it. Like, there's Max Holmes around that price that I've got enough for. But I'm afraid I'm more likely that he'll get tagged in the next couple of weeks than a Luke Ryan.
Yeah, I think the Crows probably try and chuck maybe keys to him, make him accountable if he goes to half-back or in the midfield.
I think the one player that's destroyed the Crows in the last 3 or 4 times they've played them is Tom Stewart. So I'm expecting them to actually go to him this time.
Yeah. Well, they could go to him or Max Holmes as well. We'll see how they go. But yeah, anyway, let's move into our final segment of the episode, the Flog of the Week. So apparently this week was everyone's chance to try and get the nomination. We had Eddie Maguire come out with a very interesting segment in his podcast with Jimmy Bartell about saying that everyone is copying Collingwood's jumper, including Hawthorn. Who else was it? The Giants, apparently. So very interesting. But he has not won it this week. It has been a very interesting week from Oscar Allen. So Oscar Allen is the nominee for the Flog of the Week this week. He met up with rival coach in Sam Mitchell from Hawthorn. Been spiraling around potential trade rumour that Oscar Allen could be looking to leave at the end of the year. He is the co-captain of the West Coast Eagles, so not a great look on this great scheme of things when your captain is having talks in round 4 to another AFL club or coach wanting to potentially leave.
Yeah.
But then instead of just letting it fizzle out, Oscar Allen decided to make the genius decision to do a press conference about it.
And make it a huge deal about it.
Now, first of all, I don't think it's great that he did that to begin with. But this would have fizzled out in a few days. No one would have cared about
To
it.
be honest, I think it was nearly fizzling out before they announced it was out. Like, even the day of it, it's like, oh, it's sort of over. Then, like, an hour later, they're like, oh, in about an hour and a half, guys, we're going to go out west. And we're going to have a press conference with Oscar Allen.
So
Why?
unless he's announcing a re-signing, this is not needed.
That was not needed.
And newsflash, he didn't resign. If anything, he put more fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
So he came out in his press conference, and to say that he was dodging saying that he wants to leave was an understatement. The amount of times he said, I'm in for the year. I'm all focused on the Eagles this year.
I'm focused on this game coming up.
I'm focused on this game. I'm focused on this year. Basically said to me, like, originally before this talk, like even before this interview, I thought, surely he resigns. There's no way he's leaving the West Coast Eagles. I didn't think he would, because I think he's been there for so long. He's the captain of the club. I thought there's no way he's leaving. After this, I'm like, what number's he going to wear for Hawthorn next year? He's gone.
Yeah.
So, no way he should have done this interview. He's a flog, because this would not have helped any West Coast fan.
And if there was anyone at West Coast who said that you need to do this, deserve to be part of this.
At the moment, he would. Yeah, if anyone else has said this, the media manager, maybe he deserves to be in this as well, because he shouldn't have let Oscar Allen do this interview.
No.
But whatever. I'm giving it to him, because the amount of times the amount of, like, trust that the team would have in him now is zero. How are you going to keep a player like Harley Reid at your club, who could potentially be looking at other offers at other clubs, who are wanting to go home? How can you look him straight in the eye and say, you need to pull your head in. You need to do some better work with the football? Because he's going to be like, what are you talking about? You're fucking going to leave this year.
Yeah.
Why am I listening to you? Like, everyone would just lose a lot of respect, and they can sit there and scream till the cows come home that they've got his back. He's going to be fine. If you're a player, just a lesser player, or even just a tall forward at the West Coast Eagles standing there right now watching him play football, you're like, why the fuck are you letting him play? Yes, he's the captain, but he's like fucking, he's walking. He's walking out the door.
Yeah.
You see a lot of soccer clubs because trade rumours, obviously, transfer rumours circulate all the time. A lot of them, they just bench when they've got all that sort of stuff going on. Now, I'm not saying they dropped Oscar Allen, but I'm very surprised he's still... Like, I don't think they're going to drop him as captain, but I'm a bit surprised that they've just let this... Now they're trying to sweep it under the rug, and it's like, you're the one who fueled the fire to it. You can't just, let this blow over now. This is going to be an issue for the rest of the season. Everyone's going to know if he doesn't re-sign by, mid-season, everyone knows now he's gone. And we're all expecting, like, mid-season, if he hasn't re-signed with the club, that day one of post-season for the Eagles, he's going to be announcing a trade, requesting a trade.
Do you think they should have given up the captaincy? He should have given it up?
I don't think he should have given it up, but I think Andrew McWalter would definitely be questioning his decision to keep him as captain this year, because he's not re-signed.
Well, the thing is that they're co-captains with him and Duggan.
Yeah, I mean, they easily could have.
That's the thing, is that they could have just said, well, Duggan's taking the role.
Yeah, until the end of the year when you've decided what you want to do.
What I thought was very, very strange is that Tim Kelly went in for the coin toss at the start of that game. Tim Kelly played his 100th game for the Eagles, and he goes and has the coin toss. Not Duggan and not Oscar Allen.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was the most strange thing out of the whole, at the end of it.
You would have thought for sure, to try and show like a bit of faith in the club and show how much he wants to lead, that Oscar Allen would have done it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. And I thought it was very strange that they let Tim Kelly do it.
And then he went out and had a fucking poor performance against the GWS Giants. Had 14 touches, had no impact.
Yeah, and the same with Oscar Allen. He had no impact against that game. And then after the game, McWalter comes out and says, "Oh, we wanted him to nullify Sam Taylor." Why? You weren't doing it. What I want Oscar Allen to do is play his game,
kick goals,
play as a forward, and kick a goal.
Yeah,
he couldn't do that.
Yeah,
and if he's played it down, and during his press conference, he's on the verge of tears, saying that I know I'm out of form. Show it on the field. Then.
Yeah. Show that you want to wear the jumper and you want to actually perform. And I mean, we're not even West Coast fans. In fact, I don't really have any sort of feelings towards the West Coast Eagles, but I thought that was extremely poor. So anyway, that's our Flog of the Week nomination, Oscar Allen. And if he leaves at the end of the year, could be Flog of the Year worthy, honestly, because this could keep your bookmark on this episode. And if he leaves, what a week!
That's another foot right in front of the. Yeah.
That could be, yeah. I mean, we weren't ever going to really think about giving it to a player, but this could be Flog of the Year worthy if he leaves. Because it was a shit interview, shouldn't have done it, and he's just fueled a bunch of trade rumours that will be now circulating around the club for the whole year.
Yeah.
And probably around Harley Reid as well. Anyway. Guys, that is pretty much all we have for you for the Boundary Riders podcast for this episode. Episode 108. It was a great episode, of course. One of the best, honestly. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe over on the YouTube channel. And if you are over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow us. You're notified on the podcast and the review every single week. And also, just a quick PSA, I guess, for the review. We may not have one this week just because of Gather Round. It just depends on if I have the time, because if I don't have time to do it on Monday, I probably won't have time to do it. It's going to be, if I don't get it done on Monday morning or whatever, we may not have it. But the votes will come out. We'll probably put out a community post, probably put a bunch of posts on our socials if we haven't got a review. But I'll probably let you guys know throughout the weekend if there will be a review or not. But that's just... The review will still be coming out every week anyway, other than maybe this week. There will maybe just be a post to the votes. But just wanted to let you guys know that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.